Wait.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Sparky's Family on Facebook for today's live chat. My name is Brandon Sowers. I'm a coordinator senior for the ASU First-Year Success Center, and today we're going to talk about our center's programs that help Sendable freshmen and sophomores succeed here at the university. So today I am joined by two phenomenal coaches from our center, Ephraim Lansako and Jenna Dubinoff. And why don't you guys share a little bit of your ASU story with our parents?
Sure. So, as Brandon said, my name is Jenna Dubinoff, and I'm a senior here majoring in educational studies. And I think it's a little funny because a big part of my Sendable story is the fact that I am graduating as an educational studies major, because I didn't even know that was an existent major when I first got to ASU. So I'll tell you a little bit more about how I changed my major and different things. But to start off, I am an out-of-state student. I'm from the Chicagoland suburbs. So when I got here my freshman year, I knew about 2 people just from my church that I was a part of. And I got here and moved on campus, had a roommate that I had never met before, and it was fortunately like a great experience. I loved living on campus. I got involved with a club on campus right away, which was really great. And so my focuses were school, relationships, and being involved. And so I didn't have a job or anything, which was really awesome. And I loved living on campus my freshman year and loved being a part of the ASU community and its depth. My sophomore year looked a little different because I started to realize that I didn't like being an elementary education major anymore. Being an out-of-state student and just not being familiar with the opportunities that teaching had to offer. For example, teaching in the same state you get your degree. I didn't realize that, and so I started to have a very stressful semester, just wondering, like, what am I going to graduate with? What am I doing at ASU if I don't know what I really want to do? And it was a very stressful time for me. In addition, it was my first time living off campus, so I had just gotten a car. I was trying to figure out, how do I get to campus? Where do I park? When do I have to leave the house? And also moved in with my best friend, which ended up not being the best idea for us. And I also started a job that semester, and so I was taking on a lot of brand new responsibilities and things that I hadn't been able to handle before. And so I had to really learn that it was okay where I was at. It was actually pretty normal to feel that way, which I didn't realize until I started to actually share that with other people. But so that semester, near the tail end, about October and November, I started to switch around my major. So went from elementary education to business communications, and then realized I did not want to do business communications, so I switched back to elementary ed. And then I still was not sold out on the idea, so I discovered the major educational studies with the help of my advisor. And I love the degree because it's very flexible. I can work in any education realm. And I just felt very confident being in the education field, but not necessarily being a teacher, which I didn't know existed. And so my junior year, I was able to begin working at the Success Center as a coach, and it has truly changed my life. I've been introduced to so many new opportunities, so many new resources, and different ways that I can be successful at ASU and help others be successful. And fortunately, being a success coach has opened up a career door for me in working in higher education. And so I am excited to be a senior and excited to pursue a career in higher education, working with student life, student affairs, and different things. And it's been a great run working with my students and finally figuring out what my career choice was. I did figure out how to live off campus successfully, so it's been good since sophomore year. But that's a little bit about my Sendable story, and I'm excited to share a little bit more with you guys today.
Yeah, so my story, I was actually born about 5 minutes from the campus and grew up near here, but I never wanted to come in state. I just always thought I'd go off somewhere and kind of, just develop a new environment and things like that. But senior year, it's not the most epic story, but I got really lazy, and I ended up realizing it was too late to apply anywhere else, and was like, oh please ASU, have mercy on my soul. And I applied, and they were so gracious enough not just to accept me, but to actually financially help me in a lot of ways that my family was a little stressed out about it. And so that was where I kind of was like, okay, this is not just like a last-ditch decision. This is something that is a good decision and is helping me, not just financially, but education-wise also. And then I found out my major I chose was business public services, because I always thought I wanted to work in community solutions. And I found out that the degree, like the business school, is actually well known, across the world and things like that. So that was something my parents were definitely bragging on for a while. They were like, "Our kids in WP Carey," and I was like, "Yeah, okay." And I didn't know what to say. But from there, I kind of just was watching. I was in the background a lot, just kind of watching how students take on college and how the experience is. I always grew up with this mentality of college that, like, it's a lot of groupthink, and you come here and a lot of people, you just do what the crowd does kind of thing. And I realized that there's a lot of individuality at ASU in particular, and there's a lot of people who do their own thing and can be okay with that and engage in different things. And I learned that in a lot of my classes where I'd be grouped up with people who were just completely different from me on every spectrum, but it didn't matter, because our assignment was our assignment, and we were, that was our only concern. And so that taught me a lot just about how to interact with people in general across the world, and so into my sophomore year, I got a lot more preoccupied with classes, and so didn't get to watch a little bit as I used to in freshman year, where I kind of just had time to walk around, enjoy the campus. Didn't have a lot of that sophomore year. I was really busy trying to catch up, trying to make sure that I was staying academically well, and so that was a little stressful, but it definitely taught me what I could take. And it showed me that some things may not work out as I had seemed. I had never had a C ever in high school, anything like that, and I actually ended up not passing one of my classes, and so that was like shell shock. That was like, that was I guess my definition of like, the end. I was like, what am I going to do? And then I took the class in the summer and did really well in it. So it was like my first kind of wake-up call of it really isn't the end of the world when something doesn't go your way, and it doesn't work out the way you thought. You can always bounce back. And it really changed my perspective on a lot of the students that ASU takes who are coming from the workforce, people who are, been in the workforce for a long time. There can be a stigma that people have, and that shifted everything for me, because I realized that, whatever your road is, you can find success in it in different points. Mine may be right now, retaking this class right after. Someone else's maybe a couple years down the road. But yeah, it's been an awesome experience just learning all that.
So as you both reflect on your journeys, what would you say are some of the things that helped you become a successful student while you were here?
Yeah, I think being a successful student is an individual definition. I think each person needs to individually define, like, what is success? What will make you successful this year? Will it be getting that 4.0 GPA that you want? Will being successful mean that you are financially stable in college? Like, what does that mean to you? And I think, to me, it was, like I mentioned, my freshman year focus was, like, being academically successful and being involved. And I think over each semester, being a successful student has changed very much so. But the one thing that has been very consistent is just time management. Taking on different roles, having different classes, even beginning online classes during my junior year and taking those in addition to on-campus. I had to really learn, how am I going to be successful? And I constantly have to come back to this idea of time management. Something that I do at the beginning of every semester is I go through every single syllabus for each class, and I write down in my planner what's due on every single week. And I've loved that about college, because they give you exactly what you're going to do the whole semester on the first day, and I've really appreciated that. But I think success has been different for me in different semesters as well. Time management was super important, but like I mentioned earlier, my sophomore year, like, being successful was finding a major I was comfortable in and being successful in that. I think this year, being a senior, I think success looks for me like planning for the future, like by graduation, like knowing what I'm going to do in the following months to come. So that's what I would define as like a successful student.
I resonate with that a lot, when she touches on like the individuality of success. I kind of have been kind of seeing the consistency of passing a class and like doing the assignment and doing all of that, and thinking that like if this is that all that I'm here for, then it's kind of a waste of time. So it is really what you make it. And I think success for me kind of translated into the skills I like take, not in necessarily the classrooms, but in the experiences I have just with people, like getting to. I mean, a lot of people always say, "How do you do this?" But I've roomed with a different roommate every year that I've been living on campus, and they're like, "How do you do that?" My own parents are like, "Why don't you just get your own room?" But I mean, to just move in with a complete stranger, every year, and it's almost like a game. Like it's kind of fun. It's like you walk in and you just say, "Nice to meet you." And I've had the pleasure of having 3 different people that I have lived with in these last 3 years, and adapting and learning that their differences are their differences, and I still can respect them. I can still love on them. I can still, just be myself. And that has been the most like revelatory thing that I've used as success just in life. Like anywhere I go now, I think that's one of the biggest tools I take is adaptability. Just being able to sit in a room with people that I may not agree with 100% in a lot of core areas that make us who we are. But it doesn't change the fact that both of us have blood running through our veins, and we can just sit down and have a conversation and enjoy that conversation genuinely, not feel like we're having to be forced. So that's really, I think, what's made me successful up until this point.
Yeah.
What made you both decide to become a success coach?
So I was really excited about the opportunity to be a success coach, and when I first heard about the opportunity, I had heard it from a current coach, and he just told me about the impact that he was making, how he was able to share his experiences, and just how much he had learned and how valuable the opportunity was. And seeing that I was an education major, being able to work with students was also extremely appealing to me. And so when I was able to apply for First-Year Success and actually get the coaching position, I was so excited. To be able to learn so much about the university, to be able to make an impact on the students, it was just really rewarding. And I think when I did begin to coach, I started to see just how impacting it was to not just coach people, but like learn so much from others. And seeing that I had gone through so many highs and lows during my first 2 years of college, having the opportunity to share that with someone else, to give them warnings and encouragements and pieces of wisdom, tips and tricks, it was really helpful. I hope to my students, but I definitely appreciated just the opportunity to share with others my experiences at ASU and prepare others for the future. To know that I was going to be helping students to be successful throughout their entire college career by just meeting with them a few times in the semester it's just blow away. Like the impact that we get to make is just amazing, and I'm just always wanting to like grow as a leader, grow as a person, and I can truly say that this job has definitely changed my life. So I'm excited that I got to be a coach.
It didn't really cross my mind as much my first 2 years, and like I mentioned earlier, my sophomore year was really, really difficult. But one thing I actually had started doing freshman year of college is my church allowed me to be a youth mentor to some of the early high school students there. And so I was counseling them, not really counseling as much as listening and just getting to know these people that I've already grown up with, right? But we've just been 6 or 7 years apart, and we never really sat down together. And so I had a lot of experience for this job from there without even thinking about it. That was just like what I was doing, and it's not like the church was paying me. I was just doing it because I love it and I love the kids. And so when I got an email my sophomore year saying apply for this job, I was like, well, yeah, I've been doing it for free for 2 years. It'd be kind of nice to get a paycheck. But like I just thought, like, I've been talking to a lot of these kids in high school. What would it be like to talk to somebody coming out of high school and kind of afraid of that experience and that transition?
Right.
And it was just like a new thing for me. And so when I applied for it, I had a lot of friends that I thought were a lot more credible for the job. A lot of friends that were applying for it. And people were dropping like flies, like this is a really competitive position. And so when I found out that I actually received it, it just seemed meant to be, you know. And I talked to even my own personal mentor from my church, and he was talking to me. He said the same thing. He was like, "Yeah, man, you've been doing this for free for a while, and I'm thankful for it. But it would be nice to have a little, little, you know, help and a lot of community, and yes, you know, like to get the cherry on the top of it." So it really has helped me kind of mirror like the students that I see are helping me along the way. So I think that it's really valuable. It's awesome.
Awesome.
Can you guys share with us some examples of the way that you support your students when they come in and visit with you?
Yeah. So we have this slogan, I guess, that our coaches are cheerleaders, connectors, and catalysts. So a cheerleader is my personal favorite because my number one strength is to be positive, and also my second is believe. So being able to be positive and instill belief in my students is awesome, and I think that's what's so huge about the cheerleader role is like supporting our students, cheering them on, telling them that we're proud of them. I think as a student we can often get so down on ourselves for the things that we're not doing right, and we tend to forget about all of the incredible victories that we've had. And so I love to be a cheerleader for my students and just tell them how proud I am of what they're doing, and just to support them in that way. In addition to being a connector, like I think we just are able to connect them with the resources, and maybe you can touch on some of the other resources, but we've been actually trained 40 hours and beyond that. Once a week we have other meetings to just make sure that we are sharp in the resources that we have to offer to our students, and whether that's financial aid, student services, so much more, we're able to connect our students with that. And lastly, we have our catalyst, which is just being like a movement for them. Like we get to set goals with our students every time they come in and follow up with those goals, and we help them to move from point A to point B and make sure that they are achieving everything they want to during their first year. And I think even the power of sitting down, writing down what you want to achieve, looking at it, and then coming up with a plan to actually create that is huge, and we get to be a catalyst for them and help them to achieve their goals, and so that is like so powerful in itself.
Yeah. I wish I could take notes during this because that was awesome, and I'm like, you know, like what could well, okay, what am I being successful? But I think that cheerleader is something that like I try to evoke a lot in my sessions, and just being able to listen and then like give positive feedback. But there are a lot of scenarios where people need the tangible resources.
Sure.
And I think that one of the tangible resources that I've like kind of gone back to is it's simple enough, but it's this little pamphlet that just kind of outlines the direct links of departments we have on campus,
right.
Yeah.
ranging from ASU counseling services to academic advisors.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is just the most simple way to communicate to the student that you aren't alone. Like, you know, you have obviously me here personally, but you also have just such a plethora of experienced, trained, like well-oriented people who are just trying to get you to the goals that you set for yourself. No one's trying to tell you what to do, but help you along what you want to do, and help you make sure that you're successful in that. So I think that's definitely the biggest resource. I feel like after the end of each appointment I have, if I haven't given them that little pamphlet, I'm like, oh my God, and like I don't like chase them down the hall because I'm like, you need this. This is really important. So.
Mm-hmm.
So as a coach, you mentioned, you know, you get the opportunity to impact your students all the time, and you get to be a part of their success with them. So what is an example of a time, you know, where you had that success story with that student, or even one of your students came back and said, you know, thank you for what you did?
Yeah, I actually have a student that definitely comes to mind, and when I was first starting off as a coach last year, I was a little nervous, of course, because I wanted to be the best coach I could be, and there was a student that came in one morning, and she was just crying, and she was so sad and so overwhelmed with school, overwhelmed with classes. She was having a lot of personal family problems, and at that point, I'd been a coach for 2 weeks. I had no idea what I was doing, but I at least knew how to be a friend to this girl and comfort her, and I got to ask her so many questions, and it was such an amazing bonding moment for us, for her to be so vulnerable and to be able to support her, and that was so great. So throughout the academic year, we got to meet about every 3 weeks to 4 weeks, so maybe 4 to 5 times a semester, and she really she became a really special student to me, and it was just so cool to hear her starting from point A, where she was afraid to even go to the library by herself, go to the dining hall by herself. She wasn't eating because she was so afraid to be alone in public, and she was really just feeling such deep insecurity in addition to having personal issues. And so just to be able to support her, I mean, I can't force her to do anything, but to be able to support her and give her hope and be her cheerleader throughout the year was so, so awesome. And I actually got an email from her at the beginning of the academic year, and she started to tell me just how well she was doing. She was saying, I'm a different person than I was a year ago, and she said that she goes to the library all the time by herself. She goes to the dining hall by herself. She's got her new apartment set up. She just got a cat. And she's loving her degree, her classes. She's just loving life. And despite me only meeting with her 30 minutes, like 3 or 4 times a semester, like it was so powerful to see the impact I was able to make. And we even have a friendship now that I'm not her coach anymore. We have each other's number. We recently saw each other, and so it was just really, really impacting to see where she's at now. So yeah.
Again, I mean, I feel terrible, but I haven't actually had someone come directly up to me and say so. And so, like,
this is your first year as a coach.
Yeah, right. And so it's like a first few. Thank you guys so much for helping me. Making me feel better. So I definitely went through. It's been the first few months and the first few weeks. I definitely went through that. Like, am I being genuine? Am I, being real? Because that's what I want to be. But sometimes you feel like maybe that's not what it's coming out to. And I think what helped me was when. Every once in a while we'll read just like the reception we are getting from our students in particular. And one of the comments on the section that was under my name was genuine, just being genuine and being real, and being. Somebody said that it felt like he was really concerned about my problems, and I am. I am. I think it's not like a game or like an act. It's something that I come in there and that half-hour period is really, I'm trying to make sure that you are speaking as much as possible, right, and you are feeling cared for. Because if I'm not doing that, then there's no point of being there. And so that was really, really like kind of my confirmation moment, where it was like, you may not hear it directly, but you don't need to. A lot of times you just see it in someone's face, and if you don't see it, I ask. If I feel like someone. I mean, like, if they just feel like I'm not being genuine, I'll be 100% honest and see, like, what part of this conversation doesn't feel right to you, and how can we work through that? Because, if I feel fake to you, then you shouldn't be here. We should be 100% genuine with what we're trying to do here, and what we're trying to gain from this experience. So that helped me a lot. That helped me a lot in how I transitioned through the first few months.
How would you say, here in the center we do coaching not only for freshmen, but we also do coaching for sophomores, right?
Yeah.
How would you say coaching is different for sophomores?
I was actually thinking about this question this morning, so I'm glad that you asked. But I think freshman year is a lot of the how-tos, like how to register for your classes, how to make an appointment with your advisor, how to get involved on campus, and you learn a lot of those basic things. And even if a freshman doesn't meet with their success coach, hopefully they're talking to their friends and just learning on their own. But I think sophomore year, they kind of have that figured out. They know kind of where to go, who to talk to, and different resources on campus. But at that point, like me, I'm having like major issues by choosing my major and like career stress, I guess. And I think that's what's awesome about the Sophomore Success Center is that we get to develop professionally with the students, and we get to help them really prepare for a career, and help them to find opportunities to prepare and build their resumes. I'm thinking of different internships that we have to inspire, scholarships and other opportunities, a lot of resume building. It's just a really, really great opportunity for professional development, which I love in the Sophomore Success Center.
And I think that maybe one of the biggest differences is that sophomores may tend to find themselves a bit more busy. And it's difficult for and there's no one to blame in that scenario. It's just, how I mean, like I said, my sophomore year is one of the busiest I've ever had, even busier than it is now.
Yeah.
And so I think it's that point where the sophomore kind of reaches a maturity level of what they want to do and their priorities. You know, is this a priority for them? Is meeting with my coach or meeting with anyone a priority for me, taking care of myself from that perspective? And so that's definitely different, because I think freshmen have that choice to make too, but a lot of them come in expectant and feel like, you know, I have as much to learn as possible, whereas sophomores can, you know, maybe think that, and some of them kind of get a little shocked, you know, maybe halfway through the semester, because they realize, like, this is my third year here, and I can point out maybe 6 or 7 buildings, let alone, you know, how to handle the college experience as a whole. Sure. And so it's definitely, like, I think it is a little bit of a heavier burden on some of the sophomore coaches, because it is that, you know, time to kind of cut throat, where, you know, the students are there because they want to be there 100%. And maybe they've received all their freshman orientation task stuff, and that's great, and they feel like they've received their support for their freshman year, but they're back their sophomore year because they understand there's more to learn. Yeah. And anyone who's willing to learn is just going to change the world, because, you know, they're listening and they're willing to hear from each other. And so that is, I think, really key for sophomore coaches and for sophomore students. I think it's a big responsibility, and it's easy to forget when you're being bogged down by a lot of other things in your life. But if you can remember that, and you can remember to come in here every once in a while and get to learn more, I think it'll definitely benefit people back years before, you know, they even realize what they did.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
So today's date is October 18th, and the end of the semester is not that far in sight. The finish line is soon approaching, right?
Yeah.
But going into that, you know, going into the final stretch, you know, what is some advice that you would give? What is advice that you're giving to your students, and what's advice that you would give to our audience?
Yeah, I think midterms just passed, and like you said, the end of the semester is in sight, and so many of my students are thinking, like, this is the end all be all. Like, if it doesn't happen now, I'm not getting my grades up. I'm not going to be able to do it. And so I think something I'm telling them is, like, you have time. And I think it's easy to just kind of want to check out when you're thinking of Halloween coming up, Thanksgiving soon, Christmas break is around the corner. You've got the holiday mindset, and it's easy to reflect that in your work and your lifestyle, and that just can't happen. Some students are still recovering from the 4-day weekend we had thanks to fall break, and they're trying to get back in the swing of things, and I'm just trying to remind them, like, hey, we've still got 6 weeks left, and you have a long way to go still, and yeah, it's going to come up fast, but that's why you got to keep working hard and stay focused. So that's what I've been really telling my students.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of teeter off that with the fall break, I think it's awesome that we have the 2-day break. But man, did it just mess me up, you know? Like, I'm like a junior, and it just messed me up, my whole schedule and everything like that. So ASU, don't take it away, but that's definitely, I understand if you're a student and you're watching and you feel like that. Yeah. But one of the biggest tips I think I'm giving is to my students is that it's happened before to a lot of other people, and it's happening now to a lot of other people. So I had a student actually come in recently, as soon as yesterday, and just talk to me about how they feel. Like, you know, they're coming off the fall break weekend and they thought everything was fine, and then they came back and it was just this rush of information. But at the same time, they think it's all going to end soon. So, and it's a lot, and it's like, it is a lot, but it's a lot that it's a lot that a lot of people are going through. If that makes sense, like, you aren't the first one, you won't be the last one, you know. And so don't isolate yourself, and don't feel like, oh man, what am I doing wrong? Right. And what am I doing wrong to cause this? It isn't, you know, it's funny enough, it's not about you, it's just the way that the college experience goes, I think. Yeah. And it's important to just give yourself a break, you know, and just know that you will learn from this experience, and you will be able to balance that the next few semesters. And sometimes it'll get a little bit harder, you know, but you will, you know, experience this and say, well, I didn't fail that time, and so I won't fail this time. And if you feel like it really is the end of the world, that's why you come in to meet with us, so we can find the resources to, you know, pull you off the cliff. If you feel like you're kind of hanging off the thread there, we're able to be there for you and it's not too late, right? You said
Right.
6 weeks. We have 6 weeks left.
Yeah.
So it is not too late to pull you back up, and so it's important to realize that.
Absolutely.
So one of the First-Year Success Center's most popular programs is our VIP3 Student Success Series, which is a group coaching session that addresses academic skills and also the personal development needs of our students. And in fact, as you both know, and now our audience will know, we have our upcoming session called Show Me the Money, How to Keep and Obtain Scholarships, coming up next week on Wednesday, October 25th at the Tempe campus, and Thursday, October 26th at the downtown campus. Can you share with our audience today a little bit of what students can expect to learn from that event?
Absolutely. So this is a very valuable event, something that I wish I would have been able to experience during my first year of college, which talks all about scholarships. And I think for me, scholarships seemed really out of reach, and so this event will really put them in perspective. It will teach how to maintain scholarships, how to apply for scholarships, how to make yourself a competitive applicant, and it's just going to be super informative, and I think it's going to be very valuable information for students to learn, and definitely students are going to walk away and earn some scholarships from it, which is encouraging, and it's just a very valuable event where they're going to learn so much about different opportunities that they can have to be financially successful, to not have to pay for their college as much as they do, and I think it's going to be just an awesome event.
Yeah, I think that when I was a freshman, one of the fears that were playing into that first semester was not knowing a lot about my scholarships and how the financial aid was coming through ASU and how that all works. And I think this is just a really good program that will not only help you in the now, like just you have enough to worry about, right? So you don't want to worry about am I meeting the criteria kind of deal. You want to know the specifics, but that'll help you later on too when you're looking at different programs that you want to be involved with and how financial aid will be. Like some of my students are coming in asking about study abroad and how their financial aid will attain to that. And I think this is an excellent seminar where you can ask a question like that specifically and have a really specific answer outside of just table talk. And so it's just somewhere that you can go and get peace of mind. And if you feel like you are falling behind on certain criteria, like I said, it's not too late, and this is the time to go to something like this to kind of have someone help you off the thread.
Yeah.
So we plan on covering all of that and more at the event, and we'll be sure to post the flyer in the comments below so you can see that. It is our most popular and most attended event that we've had 5 years in a row.
Yeah.
So students are going to want to RSVP as soon as possible so that you can get a seat, because it's going to be a full house at both places. So you can RSVP by emailing fys@asu, fys@asu.edu, or calling our main line at 480-965-3289. Thank you, Ephraim, and thank you, Jenna, for sharing your first-year success stories with us. Thank you for the work that you do and the impact that you continue to make with your students. It is always a pleasure to work with both of you. And also thanks to all the ASU family members who joined us today. So we just want to say have a great rest of your day and go Devils.